Greetings everyone, and welcome to a book update that quite frankly has been a very long time coming. Now, as most of you will know, I'm a huge fan of Conan and the works of Robert E. Howard. I've picked up a number of collections of the original stories over the years, and there were a bunch of other volumes in the same set of compilations of his stories that I've been wanting to get for a very, very long time. And well, I finally pulled the trigger on basically the last of them. There's a couple of best of compilations that I haven't picked up yet. I need to check and see how much overlap there is between that and the volumes I already have, and if it's all stuff I already have, then I just won't bother with them. But in the meantime, there's 4 more books of Robert E. Howard stories that I've been wanting to pick up for ages, and finally did. So let's check them out. The creator of Conan and some of his other heroes, today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. So first off, we have a collection of historical adventures. Yeah, he actually wrote quite a lot of different genres. Most of you know the sword and sorcery stuff, and some of the horror stuff and whatnot. But he did historical fiction, and that's actually a lot of what informed his Conan stories as well, was his knowledge of history and so forth. And well, this is a collection of them. We have Swordwoman. And no, that's not Red Sonja, for anyone wondering. Red Sonja was actually not a Robert E. Howard creation. She was created for the original Marvel Comics, and has since been licensed out to Dynamite Comics, who's been doing Red Sonja stories for a long time. But this is not Red Sonja, even though she has red hair. This is Swordwoman, who is one of many historical characters that he wrote about. I'll just read the back of the book to you here for you, because it just makes it easier to kind of summate what everything is. So, the immortal legacy of Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan the BArbarian, continues with this latest compendium of Howard's fiction and poetry. These adventures, set in medieval-era Europe and the Near East, are among the most gripping Howard ever wrote, full of pageantry, romance, and battle scenes worthy of Tolstoy himself. Most of all, they feature some of Howard's most unusual and memorable characters, including Cormac Fitzjoffrey, a half-Irish, half-Norman man of war who follows Richard the Lionhearted to 12th century Palestine, or, as it was known to the Crusaders, Outremer. Diego de Guzman, a Spaniard who visits Cairo in the guise of a Muslim on a mission of revenge, and the legendary swordwoman, Dark Agnes, who, faced with an arranged marriage to a brutal husband in 16th century France, cuts the ceremony short with a dagger thrust and flees to forge a new identity on the battlefield. Lavishly illustrated by award-winning artist John Watkiss and featuring miscellanea, informative essays, and a fascinating introduction by acclaimed historical author Scott Odin, Swordwoman and Other Historical Adventures is a must-have for every fan of Robert E. Howard, who, in a career spanning just 12 years, won a place in the pantheon of great American writers. Yeah, so this is terrific stuff. So quite a variety of stories here. I'm not overly familiar with his historical adventures. I mostly just know his fantasy stuff. So this will be quite a treat to go through. And as you can see, I'm not going to read every single story that's in it, but there's quite a lot in here. These Del Rey collections are just packed with stuff. They're not just compilations of stories like a lot of other collections, like some of the other Conan collections and such, but they have quite a lot of additional material, not just the stories and illustrations, but also sometimes you'll have early drafts or alternate versions of the stories. You'll have story fragments, like stuff that he didn't finish, and all kinds of stuff. Really gives you a lot of insight into his creative process. Now, there were hardcover editions of all of these, and I understand some of the viewers actually informed me that the hardcover editions actually have the artwork in color, but the hardcover editions seem to be a little harder to come by, whereas the paperbacks have stayed in print forever and are actually quite easy to get. And yeah, and I guess take up a little less shelf space too. So next up, we have Bran MacMorn, The Last King. Yeah, so this is another one I've been wanting to check out for quite a while. Another one of his more notable characters in that he wrote a bunch of stories about him. This one's actually illustrated by Gary Gianni, who I believe did one of the Conan volumes as well. Some terrific illustrations in here. So I'll just quickly read the back here for you. From Robert E. Howard's fertile imagination sprang some of fiction's greatest heroes, including Conan the BArbarian, King Kull, and Solomon Kane. But all of Howard's characters, none embodied his creator's brooding temperament more than Bran MacMorn, the last king of a doomed race. In ages past, the Picts ruled all of Europe, but the descendants of those proud conquerors have sunk into barbarism, all save one, Bran MacMorn, whose bloodline remains unbroken. Threatened by the Celts and the Romans, the Pictish tribes rally under his banner to fight for their very survival, while Bran fights to restore the glory of his race. Lavishly illustrated by award-winning artist Gary Gianni, this collection gathers together all of Howard's published stories and poems featuring Bran MacMorn, including the eerie masterpiece Worms of the Earth and Kings of the Night, in which sorcery summons Kull the Conqueror from out of the depths of time to stand with Bran against the Roman invaders. Also included are previously unpublished stories and fragments, reproductions of manuscripts bearing Howard's handwritten revisions, and much, much more. And special bonus, a newly discovered adventure by Howard presented here for the very first time. So, yeah, definitely a key volume to have. Just to, fill in some gaps. You got Kull guest starring in one of them, and a never-before-seen story. So that's pretty cool. Definitely a welcome addition to the Robert E. Howard library. So let's just take a look at some of the illustrations here. Yeah, great stuff. So there's a combination of like painted and just sort of, sketch-style illustrations. And the Conan volumes are very similar to that, where they have a variety of artwork in there. But really nice. Definitely going to enjoy checking that out. So this one kind of crosses over like a little bit of, historical fiction, but mixed in with the sword and sorcery stuff that, we started to see in Kull, which I think he did before Conan, if I'm not mistaken. It was kind of an early version of that. Next up, we have Borak and Other Desert Adventures. So, reading the back here, we got Robert E. Howard is famous for creating such immortal such immortal heroes as Conan the BArbarian, Solomon Kane, and Bran MacMorn. Less well known, but equally extraordinary, are his non-fantasy adventure stories set in the Middle East, and featuring such two-fisted heroes as Francis Xavier Gordon, known as Borak, Kirby O'Donnell, and Steve Clarney. This trio of hard-fighting Americans, civilized men with more than a touch of the primordial in their veins, marked a new direction for Howard's writing and new territory for his genius to conquer. The wily Texan Borak, a hardened fighter who stalks the sandscapes of Afghanistan like a vengeful wolf, is rivaled among Howard's creations only by Conan himself. In such classic tales as The Daughter of Erlich Khan, Three-Bladed Doom, and Sons of the Hawk, Howard proves himself once again a master of action, with plenty of eerie atmosphere. His plotting becomes tighter and twistier than ever, resulting in stories worthy of comparison to Jack London and Rudyard Kipling. Excuse me. Every fan of Robert E. Howard and aficionados of great adventure writing will want to own this collection of the best of Howard's desert tales, lavishly illustrated by award-winning artists Tim Bradstreet and Jim and Ruth Keegan. Tim Bradstreet is an artist I'm quite familiar with. He used to do a lot of illustrations for Vampire the Masquerade back in the 90s. Great stuff. So just take a peek here, see if we can get a couple of pictures. Where are we here? Yeah, there we go. Like, look at that. Awesome. Yeah, this is some good stuff. And we got some paintings and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's gonna be a fun one too. And then finally, last but most certainly not least, we have the horror stories of Robert E. Howard. Yeah, so needless to say, there's some Solomon Kane in here, which of course I have the Solomon Kane collection. So there's a little bit of overlap here, but I thought, yeah, there's probably a lot of other stuff in here that I don't have because, you know, while some of the fantasy stuff kind of dips into horror territory from time to time, they're not really straight up horror stories. So this one was definitely of interest to me. So let's give this a quick once-over here. So, Robert E. Howard, renowned creator of Conan the BArbarian, was also a master at conjuring tales of hair-raising horror. In a career spanning only 12 years, Howard wrote more than 100 stories, with his most celebrated work appearing in Weird Tales, the preeminent pulp magazine of the era. Fun fact, H.P. Lovecraft got his start in Weird Tales as well. I think they actually knew each other, too. Here are Howard's greatest horror tales, all in their original definitive versions. Some of Howard's best-known characters, Solomon Kane, Bran MacMorn, and Sailor Steve Costigan among them, roam the forbidding locales of the author's fevered imagination, from the swamps and bayous of the deep south to the fiend-haunted woods outside Paris to remote jungles in Africa. The collection includes Howard's masterpiece, Pigeons from Hell, which Stephen King calls one of the finest horror stories of the 20th century. A tale of two travelers who stumble upon the ruins of a southern plantation and into the maw of its fatal secret. In Black Canaan, even the best warrior has little chance of taking down the evil voodoo man with unholy powers, and none at all against his wily mistress, the diabolical high priestess of Damballa. In these and other lavishly illustrated classics, such as the revenge nightmare Worms of the Earth and the Cairn on the Headland, Howard spins tales of unrelenting terror, the legacy of one of the world's great masters of the macabre. So there we go. So how could I pass that up? That sounds awesome. And of course we have Solomon Kane on the cover there. So Greg Staples, let's take a look here and we'll see some of the, just a couple of the pieces of artwork here. Well, I mean right there we got this, I mean that almost looks like Bernie Wrightson. Very cool. You got the a werewolf coming at the guy there. Very nice. And if we head a little deeper, see if we can get one of the full page ones. Oh yeah. Oh, that looks awesome. Look at that. Nice. I do love a good werewolf story. But yeah, and just I love like the moody atmosphere. Yeah, they definitely got a good artist. I mean, all of these really picked terrific artists for the interior illustrations. But oh, yeah, these are great stuff. So, is it gonna sit there? No, it's not gonna sit there. Let's just put it there, and we'll kind of roll it in. There we go. You can get a bit of a better look there, I think. Alrighty, and that is it. So the only other ones remaining, if I want to be like totally anal retentive completist, is there's 2 volumes that are just called The Best of Robert E. Howard, and I'm pretty sure most, if not all, of the material in that is in all the other books that I already have. But I'm going to double check that, and maybe some of you know. I'm sure a lot of you out there watching this have all of these, and would know for certain. So let me know if you know if there's any overlap there. And if there's, enough original material, then I'll pick those up as well, and we'll properly complete the set. But anyway, great to finally have these. These have been kind of sitting in my, Amazon cart under saved for later for literal, like, probably about a decade. Basically, since I bought the other books. So it's great to finally have them in the collection and to have the Robert E. Howard collection that much closer to being complete. But I think, this covers most of the stuff I'm most interested in anyway. Like, I wanted, obviously, his fantasy stuff, his horror stuff, and his historical fiction, which kind of rides the line between both. And now we've basically got everything. So, cool. Gotta love it. Alrighty, that is it from me to you for now, folks. Hope you enjoyed. So until next time, thanks for watching, and sayonara.